All right. What is going on today, chat? Sorry about that. I think I had a little bit of a repeat there. Had to do some fixing. What's going on, chat? How's everyone's Wednesday doing? Look at all these. So this was someone trying. I'm trying to help out someone with a master set of some vintage. Look at that, chat. Flexing on them. I'm just kidding. Someone at a show not too long ago was trying to complete a bunch of different stuff. So super excited to help him out. Frowny face, Apple. Come on, can't be that bad. Well, hopefully we can change that today, Apple. With the Mr. Snorlax right here, courtesy of Jersey Shore now, Mr. Big Time Vendor Man, going to more shows in 1 month than I've probably been all year. It's crazy, man. Jersey must have an explosive vendor scene because I have a lot of folks that I vend around the Albany area that will go down to Jersey quite often because it's not that far away, and it seems like they have shows there like all the time. It's crazy. They have something like the mall and like the outlets and a bunch of crazy spots. So that's super cool that you're still doing that. So how's it going, chat? Hopefully you guys are doing good. Episode 88. There's some new things developing in the world of Pokemon as always, in addition to knowing things that it's really kind of goofy that I can't say anymore on TikTok. I've been wondering why I've had to reapply every week, and I think I've finally figured it out. So it's kind of annoying because apparently we're all 5-year-olds and we can't talk about certain things. But we'll try to do the best I can. Well, that's good, Gold. So, but yeah, we got a lot of cards to review today. One big topic that I am super excited to talk about. I actually spent like the last 3 days trying to wrap my brain around the current social media train that is people talking about PSA buying back. Well, people say it's buying back, but it's really not, which I'll get to later on. PSA buying slabs from folks who submit through PSA at a much higher percentage, which on paper in some instances is outperforming people who are offering prices in person. So we're going to be talking about that today and kind of my thoughts on why that is kind of the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. But we'll get to that after grade review, and we'll probably, if I have enough time, there's a lot of videos that I'm trying to edit this week. One, I'm finally releasing a vendor POV from a Syracuse show that I'm hopefully going to finish editing tonight and post tonight, so I got to kind of do that towards the end. Stream time, that's what I'm saying, Luke. But yeah, as always, first, whoever is here, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me every week. For those of you who don't know me or if this is your first time here, hello. My name is Galaxy Gaming, and this is what we like to call in the Outpost grade review. So in a nutshell, what grade review is it's a chance for me to review your cards that you've submitted in the Discord for free for a free pre-grading assessment. Which kind of helps you guys get more educated on what to look for when submitting your cards for PSA grading so you can save yourself some money because fees are getting pretty expensive now. I think GameStop is now at like $18.99 a card, which is pretty crazy. So this is a way to review your cards, make sure that you're doing your due diligence and not getting upset when you get a grade that you don't want to have, because I've lost count on how many videos I've seen on TikTok where people are saying, this is crazy, this shouldn't have gotten a 7 or an 8 or whatever, where there's clearly a bunch of whitening or clearly scratching or a dent or a crease or whatever. So that's what the gist of today. In addition, I like to answer a bunch of other random questions I've been vending since 2021, 2022. I can't remember now. So any questions you guys have about that, we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics today. and we're just going to have a good time, chill out. So if you guys are enjoying yourselves, for the almighty algorithm, I always appreciate the likes and shares. Really does mean a lot, because that's how people get exposed on 2025, is sharing and likes and all that fun stuff. So I think this is the first Topps card out of 88 episodes that we have actually reviewed, which is really interesting. So a subscriber, Jersey Shore, thank you for subscribing as always, my friend. I really do appreciate that. And we're going to look at the first ever Topps Snorlax. So Topps card in general, but we're now looking at... oh, you know what? That's right. That's right, Apple. Thank you. That's that is correct. When's the vendor POV coming out? So the one from Syracuse is coming out hopefully either tonight or probably scheduled for tomorrow. And I got to make clips from that, and then I got to work on the Plattsburgh one. So that's why I kind of have to optimize my schedule a little bit better this month, because I don't want to get too backlogged, but I feel like I have a good balance. So hopefully soon. But so yeah, so I will say right off the bat for these specifically, I have personally have never submitted a Topps card or things with like those sharp corners like that, like baseball cards or just sports cards in general that are notorious for having the sharp corners like this. So I'm basically coming from a position where like a lot of the tools that we've talked about over the weeks, I'm going to try to do my best to apply it to this, because that's basically what I'd be doing. So in this case, I know from personal experience having these in person, the corners and edges are notorious for having some degree of damage or like whitening or whatever. In addition to almost like a waxy glossy layer, that depending on if these were kind of stored on top of each other, oftentimes when you see these in the wild and you try to pull them apart, they're kind of stuck together just due to the waxiness of the material. So that is something that we'll have to kind of hopefully look, because I see that there's some different angles. We'll try to do our best, because it's not like a holographic, so we won't be able to see it as well, but at least we can kind of explain it as we go. So first off with the Snorlax. So with the front of the centering specifically, you know, the question that's probably going to be asked right off the rip is, how do you measure centering on the front? And to be honest, normally with standard Pokemon, you have things like the energy symbol that are pretty much statically placed on every card, no matter how it's like presented. But this one's a little bit different. And so the only thing that I could probably think of, which is in itself a little bit of a stretch, would probably be the center Pokeball, because this here is, from what I've seen in the past, pretty static on some of these cards. But I think for now, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think the back might have more of those kind of placeholders than the front would. But we'll kind of just like review it. And again, if you guys specifically have any experience with grading Topps, this would be the perfect time to kind of educate all of us, because I'm basically just kind of adding what I've kind of learned through this process. So the first thing that I know for a fact, that this corner looks pretty good on that right side, as well as that top edge. Maybe a little bit of whitening here, but again, it's going to be a little bit tougher, because although it is a little bit aggressive, or not aggressive, more noticeable on these style of cards to notice the whitening than standard. It's going to be a little kind of touch and go here. For example, you know, in this section here, you know, in addition to some of the lighting, we also have kind of like these little rays here that may kind of present themselves as whitening, but we kind of have to do some due diligence at least to try to at least acknowledge them if they exist. So like, for example, in this purple area, got a little bit of whitening there, at least what it appears to be whitening, but that corner looks okay. Looking at the bottom edge, that looks good. The bottom right corner looks really good. So now seeing this purple side here leads me to believe that the whitening on that left side is in fact whitening to a degree. So it would be next stream Envy, because I have the queue closed for tonight. The light is off on the left. That's not really whitening. Oh, okay, gotcha. Rory, thank you for liking the live. Appreciate that. But yeah, the rest of the card, from what I can tell from this angle at least, looks to be pretty solid. Nothing major, no major scratches. But the biggest thing that I'm kind of looking for these is any indicator that there's damage when the cards may have been stuck together or pulling apart, if they're stored in kind of in bulk, if that makes sense. So looking at the other angle of this card, and this right side is going to make it look a little bit like there's whitening here. But I can probably make a safe assessment that just because of how thicker this card is with the cardstock in the middle compared to standard cards, it's going to appear whitening on the whole side. But that's not really kind of what I'm most concerned with, at least from that angle specifically. Now on this side, kind of the same thing. A little bit more that you can kind of notice here on that whitening on that left side. But the surface or the Snorlax itself is pretty good from what I can tell. Now for centering, I think this would be one of those instances where we have some markers that we can use to kind of help us identify some centering. So let me mark some of those points of references, at least from what I'm going to be using during this session specifically. Now, when we look at this bottom part, right, so first we have this section here, and then this section here. So very similar to when I kind of talk about e-readers, those two sections is kind of what I'm using as kind of like a point of reference. In addition to kind of like have this line kind of going across here, and then this line kind of going across here to kind of help us establish some degree for this side. So, you know, maybe because if it's on the back, I think this is probably going to be quote unquote within that 75-25. But that's as probably as accurate as I can probably get in this instance. But the corners is really, again, the corners and edges are really what I'm most concerned with if I were to kind of try to submit this for the very first time. So let me just look here. So that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. And so I'm really just kind of, again, looking more on the surface, seeing if there's anything weird or any issues going on. And honestly, it doesn't really look like it, to be honest. So I think for me, I would just kind of, again, more of like that ROI conversation that we've had in the past, like however much you pick this up at. So like if you've had this maybe in your bulk box forever as a kid, or if you just kind of had it for a while, then your kind of like initial buy-in would be 0 essentially. But if you got it recently, obviously you have to kind of factor that in. But I didn't notice anything that would stand out that would make it 7 or worse from what you're kind of telling me about the whitening, that is not existent. So pretty much like I would look up numbers of like PSA 8s, 9s, and 10s to see what the market is. And I would imagine something like this probably doesn't have too many sales, or you might be able to squeak in with it being in like a bulk order. It'd be really interesting to see what they come back as from a declared value perspective. But yeah, I mean, from what I can tell, man, it really looks clean. The only thing that I've seen for cards like this is you almost see almost like a wax stain. That was really the only thing that I was kind of really looking at that I've known personally, that I've seen on cards, is that wax stain. But I didn't see any here, and the corners and the edges looked pretty good. What is this card type called? So this is a Topps card. So sometimes there's like so many different variants for the Topps stuff. But for this one specifically, it's the Topps blue variant. So you can kind of see that based off of the Topps logo being filled with blue. But there's like Topps Chrome, there's Topps like Shatterfoil, there's normal. There's a ton of different variants for Topps cards specifically during this era. But normally they are kind of individualized or categorized based off of how the Topps logo was filled in. But yeah, man, I would definitely submit it, and I'd be super curious on what it comes back as. So if I were to kind of give an answer for this, I mean, the edges look good. I just think that, like what Apple was saying, I think really the big things is going to be the corners that might be the most sensitive. How many have I gone through today? So far it's just the one, Jesse. Just the one so far. Um, but yeah, I would say maybe like an 8 or a 9, depending on if there's anything that we see on the front. But again, that's a very kind of loose guess. But if you definitely submit, I would love to see it. You submit what they come back as often, so I'd be excited to see what that is. Um, but yeah, appreciate you as always, my man, for subbing, and yeah, it's keeping me on my toes for sure. All right, so now we have, let's see, chat, who is up next. So we have, if I can get to where we need to. Oh, so this one was actually pretty cool. I believe you guys might have to correct me, but I'm pretty sure that this is true, that the gold Reshiram was, I think, the first like gold card printed in Pokemon in the official release set. I'm pretty sure it was the Reshiram and the Zekrom. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So, it's been a very long time since I've seen this card, and it's very, very hard to look at this card online. Hermans. So this is the bit of a difference of me trying to explain to you how to submit your cards. On my TikTok page, you will see all my info in my bio. I would encourage you to explore the information in TikTok and explore the links on top. So right now, I am pulling these from Discord. It's as much as I can say. It's unfortunate, but I'm going to be making a kind of a how-to soon, so it won't be as vague. But I hope you are kind of reading between the lines and understanding why I have to be so vague. It's really kind of silly, but it is what it is. Okay, so the full gold. You got it, Hermans. You got it. So full gold Reshiram. So we are going to do our best with probably going to be a combination of these two to do our best to measure centering specifically. We'll do our best here. So let me just take a quick screenshot of this bad boy. And if you guys are enjoying yourselves over on TikTok, I'd always appreciate if you like or share. Help me with the almighty algorithm. And that way you can check the story on some new things that are coming up. So let's take a look. That gold, thank you for liking the live. Appreciate you. Speaking of gold, let's look at this gold Reshiram. So judging by, so I'm going to try to make a line to kind of help you guys better visualize where I'm personally seeing the border edge. So right about here on the top, and roughly right about there for the bottom. I'm trying to do my best. Now again, it's a little bit kind of off because this thing is super, super gold, but right where I kind of have those green lines is roughly where the border of this Reshiram is. So look, based off of looking at it from the top down, from this angle, it appears as though the bottom might be a little bit thicker than the top. But that's probably about it. But let's see. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second. All right. So that might be the first thing that I see, is it might be a little bit thicker on the bottom than it is on the top. On the left and the right, that's a little bit too tough to make a call. Again, the left side, if we're gonna basing off my lines, looks a little bit thicker, but it's way too hard to tell. I think really the most of what we're gonna be able to see is probably gonna be on the back. Like for example, we see a little bit of a dot there. It is real. It is real. I actually pulled it up just to verify, but it is real. It's one of the first gold rares released in Pokemon, from what I remember. Betty, what's going on? Great, great to see you back streaming, by the way. Hopefully your test stream went well. But from this angle, we really can't see too much. What's set? That's a good question. Give me 1 second. I can tell you here. Unless someone knows in the chat, I'm gonna pull it up right now. But I can confirm that it is real, because I have seen it in person once before. It is from Legendary Treasures. Yes, Alex, thank you. But it's from Legendary Treasures. Does someone say Pokemon? Now you're getting it, Betty. I can't wait to see your polls, man. Probably gonna have some bangers, I bet. Yeah, man, it's this card is like when you see this card in person, it is insane. It's a little bit blurry on this one, so it's a little bit tough. I mean, there might be something on the snoot there of the Reshiram, but from what I can see on the front. Let's see. Can I send you a pic of the SIR? Yeah, you can. I probably won't be able to get to it tonight because the queue is closed. But definitely check out my TikTok bio, and there's more information in there for you. Right now, I'm pulling these from my Discord. So, Nash, thank you for the follow, by the way. Yeah, dude. Betty, I agree. Some are nice, man. So yeah, I'm not really going to be able to comment much on that, but the back I can comment on. So this actually gives me something to work with here. And again, this is a really good, and I'm going to talk about it if you guys weren't here in the beginning. I'm going to talk about, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but screw it. So like the digital packs, like if you guys have seen this whole like GameStop power pack thing, I don't know if you guys have seen this at all, but where if you go to this site, you can kind of do like these starter silver packs or whatever. I'm going to actually be talking about this a little bit later tonight to kind of give my 2 cents about it. But anyway, on to the back here. So centering on this actually looks pretty good on the back. Some whitening here. Some whitening here. Here, here, here. And there. So I can tell you, just from experience, from the amount of whitening so far, it would not get a 8 or higher. And honestly, we're kind of in that 7. Going to open up our... I mean, it basically looks like it, right, Betty? It basically makes it look like it is a full-blown arcade. How they have it kind of presented, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, I would say the whitening alone on the back leads me to believe, that we're probably looking at like a soft 7. Probably even a 6. I think for me, these bits of whitening are pretty aggressive for me to be comfortable saying that it would be a near mint card. Most likely like an LP plus range. If the front, because we really can't do too much with what we have for the front pictures. But I think with the back, specifically, we're probably looking at a 6. Just judging by how the back looked, some of that's probably going to transfer to the front. Not saying that the damage on the back is going to transfer to the front, but due to the overall appearance on the back, it leads me to believe that there is also some damage that we're not seeing on the front as well. Just basically speaking from experience. So the front looks okay, but it's really the back that is going to be kind of giving this more away, with it kind of being more in that light play range. So it's a really good point to make, guys. If you're looking for really high-end singles online, definitely make sure that the pictures are nice quality and crisp, because you can kind of see just from this Reshiram as an example, a lot of the brightness and a lot of the angles that we're seeing is somewhat hiding potential issues, which is hurting our ability to make educated and more informed decisions on what we think this card would get as a PSA grade. But based on the back, we're kind of looking at like a 6, would be my guess. But okay, so next up we have And if you guys are enjoying yourselves in chat, definitely let me know. Hopefully you guys are having a good Wednesday. Episode 88 of Grade Review. We got to think about, for those of you who are in the Discord, we'll have to figure out something fun to do for episode 100. Because that's going to be, I feel like I got to do something big for episode 100. I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe like a collection show off of like have everyone submit like their best part of their collection and we'll review it on stream or something. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool to do. But I don't know. Maybe I'll do some polls and maybe get some feedback on what you guys might want to see for episode 100 because it's coming up soon, man. We're already at 88. We're right at 88. It's crazy. Okay, so here, guys, this is something that I need to speak on. So cards like this, you know, everyone loves submitting. That is a wild, wild comment, Luke. That is absolutely crazy that I just read that on stream. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. So with the accessibility of GameStop, a lot of people are submitting their IRs and SIRs that they pull, right? So the one thing that we have to keep in mind for Modern is PSA 10 or bust, right? Because the accessibility of grading is becoming so high, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. But at a price, there's a lot of people having these false expectations and not really knowing what to look for when it comes to, like, you open a pack, you get something really good, you want to submit it to PSA. So the two main things for Modern is centering and corners. Those are going to be your two biggest culprits. We're obviously going to continue to look at the other areas, but those are really the two biggest ones. So with that being said, the centering on this Team Rockets Crobat looks to be pretty good. I don't have any issues with it so far. So far, so good. The corners actually look pretty good too. So that top right corner looks good. Top left corner looks good. Maybe this one might have something, but that might be possibly some lighting, but we'll take a look when we look at the back. That is the Reshiram. So the back actually looks pretty good. Now I will say it looks to be a little bit thicker on the right side than it does the left. So if I kind of show this, but I will say that on paper PSA's more lenient on centering on the back than they are on the front. So this side is within, on the back is 75-25, but I personally, like when someone asks me for centering on the back, I would probably even lean more towards 60-40 than 75-25, only because A, I'm more conservative when it comes to grading, and B, I've noticed things on paper, like centering on paper, was within that range, but it comes back as a 9 and people are wondering, well, why did it get that? It met the whatever. I have a feeling that if it's too noticeable, then that fifth hidden grading criteria, in my opinion, which is eye appeal, really kind of kicks in because you can't really ignore it, which is why I'm kind of saying it like that. But aside from the centering, the corners are actually in really good condition. The only thing that I will have to kind of note here is you can kind of see it. So this, for example, I think is just the background. I don't think that's actually on the card. But this stuff right here. So these little kind of white fuzzies that are kind of stuck onto the surface of the card. Again, just make sure you wipe those off with like a microfiber cloth that's like a clean microfiber cloth or Q-tip or little bit of distilled water on the Q-tip if it's a really stubborn piece of cardstock. But that, if left untreated, will give you some issues regarding surface. So you want to make sure you don't give them any reason to give you any points deducted on your surface subgrade. So just make sure to clean those off. But that corner looks good. That edge looks good. That corner looks great. So yeah, I would say for this Team Rockets Crobat, the big two things, the centering in the corners, besides the centering on the back, which I think we're within that 75-25 for sure, and honestly probably even within that 60-40 to kind of that more conservative buffer. I think this would probably be a good shot at a 10 unless there's something wrong with the surface that we simply can't see in the picture. And I'm just going to kind of take a look. You did have some here. This one's a little bit too blurry. Maybe you're trying to show me the corner. But that'd probably be the only thing based off the one picture that I saw in the front. If this is something, if this is a little bit of whitening, then yeah, you might not get the 10. If that is there, but if it is not, then I still think you have a shot at the 10, in my opinion. So just kind of take a look at that if it's more noticeable in person, because I think you were trying to show it here, but it might have been a little bit blurry. Not too sure. So just kind of keep that in mind. Next up is TJ with the Mewtwo V-Star. Honestly, a really nice card. Jesse, thank you for liking the live. Appreciate you. I appreciates it. All right, Mewtwo V-Star. It's got a lot of Pokemon in here. And if no one has ever noticed the other Pokemon in here, and it's kind of fun to do this when I have the little magnifier. So we have the Tangrowth in the background, if you guys have ever noticed him freaking out back there. And I think this is Diglett, I believe. Right down there. I believe that's Diglett. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm talking about. Hold, pause. Let's see. I think this is Diglett. Right here. Boom. I believe that's Diglett. Flying in the chunk of dirt. There you go, chat. Only here is where you know. So if any Diglett Master Collectors, you need to purchase the Mewtwo V-Star because Diglett is chilling at the bottom. So, just saying. All right, anyway. Let's not focus on the Diglett and let's focus on the Mewtwo V-Star, shall we, chat? Jesse, thank you for liking and sharing the live. Appreciate you. So centering on this is actually really good. Corners also look really good as well. So really, so far, so good. Now the back. So I think the only thing, the card in general on the back looks phenomenal. The only thing that I'd probably be a little bit worried about is I don't know what this is here. To me, I don't know if it's part of like this section, because I feel like if it was, I would have seen something like that honestly on like other cards, right? Because it's just the same card stock on the back. But just double check that here. That'd probably be the only thing that I could see right off the rip. But that corner is great. This is good. And there's another thing I want to kind of talk about this section here in a little bit, because I see the same thing on my Rayquaza V-Star, or V-Max rather. That corner is good. That edge is good. That corner is good. That edge is good. As well as that corner is good too. So the only thing that I would just double check, because I have seen this on my, oh, wait a minute. Chat, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you can. But this here weirdly looks like a recolor. Now again, I don't know. Let me actually pause. Give me 1 second. We're gonna do the first ever Photoshop open here in just a second. Because that to me looks like a recolor, but I don't think it's bright enough to show it on stream. Give me 1 second. Where is just my just chatting chat? Where are you guys? There we go. What's up, chat? Let me open up Photoshop here real quick. Because that part on that Mewtwo V-Star looked recolored. And just give me 1 second. So if I take that screenshot and hopefully copy that, paste it in here. Now let's see. It's going to be a little pixelated, but maybe. All right, chat. We are in the Photoshop. So this is the spot that I'm kind of looking at, right in this circled area. So I'm hoping I might have to. I feel like I'm in like a CSI scene right now. So I don't know. That's probably the best that I'm probably going to be able to show it. Is like right about there. And then right about there. Boom. All right. Hopefully you guys can see that. I really hope you can. Because that's probably as clean as I'm going to make it. Are these two dots right here. Right here and right here. So it almost looks recolored, to be honest. Do promo cards like the Mewtwo who comes whether a Pokemon Go packs is worth sending? So whenever I'm asked the worth sending part, the basic math that I always recommend is first calculate how much you're in it for. So if it's 0, 10, 20, whatever, you determine what grade you think it would get, which is why I do these streams, right? To help people understand what grade they should get. Get comps for the grade that you think it will get, and then do the same thing -1 to kind of give a conservative range. Calculate the cost at which it would be to send the card. And then whatever you get back, like the realized grade, you subtract the projected profit minus fees. Subtract that against how much you're in it for, and then that will tell you if it's worth it or not. Because I don't know. There's a lot of, when people ask me variable questions like that, I can't really answer because I don't know the variables. But going back to this Mewtwo V-Star. So, because I think this is really important to kind of highlight. So this Mewtwo V-Star looks great on the front. The only thing that I'm worried about, to be honest, of this entire card is what appears to be a potential, I'm not saying it is, but a potential recolor in that top border. So here in Photoshop, I really tried my best to bump up the contrast so you can kind of see these two little dots here. Now, is it part of the cardstock? It most likely is. A benefit of the doubt says that it potentially is. Does it look a little weird to me? It does. Now, you know, if that's part, because it's not in the sleeve, it's on top of the sleeve based off what I'm seeing in the picture. Now, is it part of the camera or whatever? That also could be true. But for something like this, if this card was offered online for purchase, one of the things that I would do is ask for more pictures in that area specifically. Because right now, looking at it in Photoshop with high contrast, you can see these two dots stick out more predominantly in this view than the standard view. So something like that, I would just have them re-look at, or just have a different angle just to see if you kind of see that same consistency. Because right now it's outside the sleeve. So, you know, if that's not the case, there's not whitening on the edges or corners. I don't see anything weird. That was really the only thing I saw. Yes, YB. That is legitimately why I have started bringing a black light, because how predominant. Because you guys, for those of you who have been here for a while, I'll do minor cleaning on my cards, but I will only do things that address things that have already been added to a card, like dirt, thumbprints, debris, stuff like that. But I will never add anything to a card, like wax or pens or anything like that. But the latter is becoming a little bit more predominant because more people are trying to find creative ways to kind of maximize their potential profits. And one of them has been alterations, which this, if that were pin marks on the top, that would obviously be considered an alteration. But a black light, like what YB said, a black light would help kind of make this more predominant, very similar to what I did in Photoshop here, where, you know, it wouldn't do the same thing that you're seeing in Photoshop, but it would at least help you kind of identify that there might be another layer on top of the original layer, which should kind of help you at least. Whatever helps set off alarm bells is a good tool to have in your toolkit, essentially. So I would say if that's not true, and you don't have like weird pack folds on the top here, which I've seen before with like other cards, this probably has a good shot at a 10, to be honest. But if that is retouching, they would consider that alteration and probably wouldn't grade it. But that's about it. And the thing to like push corners down or whatever. So if you're talking about like flattening out curved edges, that's one thing. But if you're talking about like pushing corners down with like a blue pen to like add that extra, then yeah, that's something I would never do. And that's also something I've been starting to look at too, is signs of retouching on the edge of the card, because sometimes that blue like pen or ink or whatever that they're using to kind of touch up will bleed sometimes. If it's too close to the edge, will bleed towards the middle. But so yeah, really kind of a wide range of answers on that, TJ, but that's probably as accurate as I can probably get it for you. Okay, Celebi V. I absolutely love this card, to be honest, from Fusion Strike. Very, very good card. So centering on this is really good. No issues there. Corners look great. So far, so good. Centering again looking really good on this card. Corners look fantastic. Again, the only thing, you're kind of making my job a little bit easier here. The only thing that I could probably tell or recommend is just wipe that little bit of whitening off, which is kind of in that right bottom right section here. And let me just take a quick screenshot that is not awful, so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So it's going to be this guy right here. So as long as you can kind of get rid of that, then you should be good. So yeah, that might, to me, that would probably be a pretty good 10 contender. Okay, so the first ever metal card in grade review. Now I have graded 4 other metal cards. For those of you who are not aware, there was a time where PSA did grade metal cards, then stopped soon after because they were either doing, I can't remember, they were either doing damage to the card, damage to the holder, or a combination of the two. But then they figured out how to not have that happen, and then they started reintroducing it again. So you can grade metal cards, which is nice. So nice. I got that thing again. So now I know what I really can't say, which is fantastic. Can't talk about prices, can't talk about anything. It's insane what I can and can't talk about on this app. But we're going to keep going. You're telling me my Burger King Zard is solid gold, isn't metal? Nope. Get it out of here. But this Mew EX is metal. Corners and edges are looking good, looking sharp. I think you had one. Oh, where's the one that you had with the front? I think I had another one. Maybe not. So the centering on this looks pretty good, to be honest. So, excuse me. So with these metal cards, based on my experience, the biggest issue is always these top right here. These little like top dings in the top edge of the card. So like right here. It's always the biggest problem with these. Because the rest of the card can be fantastic. Now with these, I would always recommend having them probably double sleeved, because you don't want people actually physically touching them with the oils in their hands, because it is metal and it will leave some degree of residue, more predominantly than a normal regular card. So I always have these double sleeved. for personal reasons. If someone wants to look at it or whatever. Um, so the rest of it looks pretty good, but I would imagine if yours is, which it does, looks very similar to cards that I've had come back and gotten nines for these metal cards. My assumption is that will probably result in a 9. This little like issue right here will most likely get you a 9, in my opinion, just from purely experience. How did you get so knowledgeable on card grading? Well, I appreciate that, Jesse. Really, it's not so much that it's just like kind of trial and error learning, to be honest. I've been like, so anytime I would grade cards or anytime I do grade cards, I take a guess in my head or like an assumption of what I think it would get back as. And if I'm right, then it kind of reaffirms like some of those observations are true or my assumptions are true with what they're looking for. And if I get something that's wrong or wildly wrong, I also learn from that too. So I've just been kind of doing that over and over and over again. In addition to stream, having you guys submit cards and then some of you sending stuff back like, hey, this is what it actually came back is. It's just kind of more of that, like confirmation. And if you guys are watching, Faye has arrived. Say hi to Faye. She is the stream cat, currently grooming me right now. Say hi to Faye, everyone. But yeah, I'm thinking a 9. If it's any similar to my copies, mine had pretty much the exact same thing on the top, and they both came back as 9s. Faye, Faye, like Faye Valentine. That's what she was originally named after. Shout out the Weebs, man. Shout out Cowboy Bebop fans. What I meant was like the reusable microfiber or phone cleaning swabs versus just using Q-tips. Because I think you're asking about like the corners or whatever. So what I normally do when I clean cards, when I'm taking off dirt or taking off grime or whatever, is I'm just using Q-tips and microfiber cloth with a little bit of distilled water. Now, in terms of the edges, like what I do to like work around those edges, the Q-tips that I use are pointed in nature, so I use the fine tip to kind of work around those edges if I need to. But I do it very carefully, just because that's pretty much straight exposure into the center of the card. And you want to try to avoid as much water in that area as you possibly can. Hafe, do you agree? I think she agrees, chat. What's up, Miss Faye? Huh? Do you have a question? No? Okay. Thought she had a question. But she doesn't. So do you want us to continue? Okay. So next up is Umbreon, the Master Ball. Centering looks good. Corners look good. Nothing wrong there. Centering looks good here. Corners look good here. Edges look good here. It's a little bit pixelated. But that's okay. The only thing that I'm assuming that you're trying to show focus on is possibly these, like that right there where the tip of my mouse is. I don't know if you guys can see that. Almost like little, maybe like impacts right there. But that might be about it. But I have no idea what that chime is, to be quite honest with you. So I apologize if it's loud. I couldn't even tell you where it's coming from. So let's see. So I'd say if that is a little bit of a dot or a dip or whatever, that might give you a 9, because it is on the front of the card and it is technically a surface, like a very, very mild surface issue in general. From what I've seen, if that is, traditionally I've seen that with textured cards of this caliber. You see it a lot with like GXs from like Sun and Moon and stuff like that, with those little like random pits. So that might be a reason why you might get a 9 if that is there. But I don't know. I would say I most likely probably pulled it, so I'd probably just submit it, just see what happens. But my guess is probably more towards the 9 and the 10 if that is more noticeable in person. All right, Jesse, you are up again. So we reviewed your, we reviewed your Crobat. Now it is the Squirtle and the. I honestly love this Iono's Belly Bolt. This Iono's Belly Bolt is so nice. Very cute. Very cute Belly Bolt. All right, so got rid of that. Got done with the Umbreon. Now it is Squirtle Squirt action. Squirtle Squirt. Okay, so centering on this bad boy is very good. Corners are good. So far so good. Now does anyone want to tell me why I think this card would not get a 10? And why you guys are furiously typing in chat why I think some signs that might not make this a 10. I'm going to thank you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. Shout out to the homies. Going to be talking about PSA's power packs here once grade review's done, and how kind of the some of the loose trajectory I think Pokemon's coming. Bree sniping it. Good job, Bree. Bree out here ready to grade. Yes. There is also one other thing. I don't know if you guys might be able to see it. There is one weird thing that I'm seeing in the top left. And Apple, look at you guys. Professional graders in the chat. So first off, the centering is okay. I will say right off the rip, I don't think this would get a 9. Or I'm sorry, I don't think it would get a 10 to start. Because we have a little bit of whitening here. But the big one that both Bree and Apple saw is that right there, and that's in that bottom right. But the weird thing is, in addition to what Apple was seeing in this section here, I don't know, you guys might be able to see it there. That's a really good picture of it. There's almost like a really weird, it almost appears as though there is like a water droplet that kind of got soaked into the card, and it's kind of doing this like weird bubble effect. And if it looks like I'm like really looking at your soul, I'm looking at my other screen here, because sometimes my other screen has a little bit of better contrast. So right here, almost looks like it kind of sucked up some water, and it's kind of bubbling a little bit. So if that is a little bit like right here, for those of you who are trying to see it, yeah, Bree, that's what I think too, to be honest with you. So that does look a little bit to be some form of water damage. And so I'd probably say with that, yeah, exactly, Luke. It kind of looks like a dimple almost, like a water dimple. So if that is true, if I had this card in my possession, I probably would rate it like mod play, like MP minus. Like if that is water damage, because that is pretty significant. In addition to what appears to be 1, 2, 3 points of whitening here. But if it's not that, and it's something else, then we're probably getting to like that 7 range. Like that'd probably be my guess. I don't think it would be worse to be like a 6. But if that is on the back as water damage, it'd probably be, I don't know, probably like a 5, because I've seen some like dimples like that have been like damaged dimples, that I've had personally come back as like 5s or even 4s. Because they do not mess around when it comes with dimples or bends or creases or anything like that. They do not mess around. So my guess would probably be a 5 if that is the case, or a 7 if it's not the case. Just because of the like what appears to be something on it in addition to the 3 points of whitening on the corners. So that'd be kind of my loose guess on that one. Yeah, I've had like 2 or 3 cards have like a weird kind of like bubble like that. Some like I think I've had a few come back as 4s and one come back as a 5. Um, so that's kind of really where that's where it's kind of coming in. And honestly, this shows a little bit like what you're seeing, Apple. A little bit more of that whitening on that left corner. And then the Iono's belly bolt. Me personally, I really like this belly bolt. I think it's a really nice looking card. To be honest, a lot of the bright colors and all that fun stuff. Um, Centering on it looks really good, and the corners look really good too. But again, I really think that there is more of that whitening in some of these corners that I don't think you're going to get the 10 because of it, unfortunately. Um, and what I see are these. I'm just going to kind of clean up some snips here. So right here, we have a little bit of whitening here. That was an awful circle. There's one right here. And I don't think you have another picture for me to send it, but like right here and here, I think, and maybe here. So with those bits of whitening and there, that probably, this to me doesn't look like a fuzz. It more looks like a little bit of that ink that didn't like fully get pressed onto the card. I would say because of those points of whitening, I don't think it would get the 10. You might be able to get away with a 9, possibly. But if all of those circles are true, more like an 8 than a 9. But that's just kind of what I think. But I think because of like all those whitened dots, if there's more than 2 in what I'm seeing, since they're very mild in nature, if there are more, like 2 or more, then you're probably looking more at like a 9. But if they're all there, then you're probably looking at it like a maybe 9, but then it like more likely a 8. But that's kind of my guess. And then Cheerful. I don't know if you're in here, man. I forgot to mark it. I do not I do not assess serialized goofy baseball cards. I don't historically review these. But if I did, it'd be pretty sick. Goofy Incarnate, chat. Look at that. Chrome, Miami Marlins, Goofy. Can't go wrong with that. All right. So next up, you thought. Well, you thought you were going to get a good grade, didn't you? Well, let's see. So we have Charizard, we have Deoxys, we have more tag team stuff. The popularity of tag team is still up in the air on whether or not it's if the desire is quenched quite yet. No one really knows. But the lighting of this card looks insane to me. So let's take a look. So the first good sign that this card is real is that the whole card itself isn't holographic. So these tag teams, I feel like are pretty like heavily faked. Not because like any of them in particular are very rare, but for whatever reason I always see these faked more than any other card. And so the centering on this actually looks pretty good. So when I'm looking at centering for this, it's more like right here. So boom, and right about here. So the silver edge here, and that silver edge there. So that's primarily where you would kind of start measuring that centering. But the rest of the card looks pretty good. Corners look good. The edges look good. So far, so good. That one as well. So based on my experience, YB, I have had some GXs that have not necessarily had like off center of that black middle line, but you can kind of visibly see that it's slightly off center in nature. But having said that, I've had those cards come back as 10s. So, because I thought the same thing, and I had so many GXs that I was kind of on the fence about that I was like, I'm just going to submit these and see what happens. So my working theory based off of my own experience is that as long as it's not like totally obnoxious, I don't believe that the black inner line matters when centering is calculated. I think it's still calculated from the standard of that silver border in the GX example. Again, merely talking about my own personal experience. But that's kind of how I approach it. Let's see. But yeah, centering on that looks really good. And then for here, let's see. Right now, I'm kind of just taking a look at. It's a little bit lifted, for sure. But that again, that doesn't necessarily give you issues with your grade. But it's always, I don't know, it's always like a good habit to get into. Try to just like flatten that out, probably like within like a heavy book or something like that. Just so that again, you don't want them dinging you at all or anything like that. So, but that top right corner looks good. Top left corner looks good. Top middle looks good. That edge looks good. Now the only thing I probably see is these a little bit what appears to be whitening on that bottom part. In addition to that, maybe here, and these little bits of kind of whitening, which to me looks like something you could probably just wipe off. But that'd probably be it. It's really just this on the bottom that I'm a little bit worried about on that bottom edge. So if that, like, I would say, there's really not a lot going on this card, to be quite honest with you. It's really just what appears to be whitening on the bottom left corner, and the one here. So that and this. So if those are there, you might be able to squeak by. It might be kind of like a gambler's 10 situation or a really good 9. But if those are not there, and one thing I just noticed is that there's a little bit of something stuck on that M in Pokemon on the bottom part. You might need to wipe that off to make sure that everything I'm saying is actually true. But, if any of that is not true, any of the stuff that I circled, it's a good shot at a 10. The corners look really good, especially for a promo with that stuff kind of sitting in there loosely. It has a pretty good shot. I didn't see anything that stood out to me from the pictures from the surface, which looks really good. So yeah, I mean, if it were mine, I'd probably submit it. So this bad boy, the centering looking pretty good, looking pretty fresh. Left, right looks good. That's really like in the white section of these VMAXs is typically where I look for centering, and that looks fantastic. The top looks a little bit thick, but I think we should technically be within the range if PSA is true to their word, I guess. I know it's kind of a stretch, but let's see. And then for this card, maybe some fuzzy stuff stuck there in addition to that. But corners look good. That corner looks good. That corner looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Boom, boom, and boom. So I think if you can kind of verify that stuff on circled is clean, then you should be good. Really no issues there. Was able to wipe off the stuff on the M, and the white bottom was just dust. Well, then I think you have a pretty good shot. If it were me, if you were able to get rid of that stuff, I'd probably submit it. Has a good, from what I see, good signs of a 10. Unless there's some scratches on the hollow that we couldn't see from the angle, but from what you sent me, it looked good. This one looks good too. I just wipe off those little white dots in the back, but that's about it. Yeah, that looked good to me. Now the Charizard and Braixen. Same thing. Centering looks good if we're kind of not focusing primarily on that inner black layer. So the corners look good, edges look good. Not too worried about that. Even with like more of like the zoomed in look, I'm pretty sure this and YB might be able to confirm. I believe that's just on the artwork and not the card, if I am correct in saying that. But the rest of the card looks really good. Corners look good, edges look good. Let's see. The only thing that's a little weird is that it almost looks like the cut is a little almost like a soft diagonal, from the top left to the top right. I don't know if it's just like an optical illusion or what, but that's probably the only thing I see there. And then very similar to what I said about the Reshiram Zard. Same thing here. I don't know if this is something stuck onto the left edge, and you guys can't even see what I'm talking about. So let me try that again. So the thing that I'm seeing is maybe this right here. But again, probably just wipe that off. And then all this other stuff, you guys might be seeing it in chat. Like this circle, this circle, this circle here. I believe this is just kind of like artifacting when the picture is actually taken. All those like little what appear to be stains are not actually stains. It's just part of how the picture was taken, which can kind of cause those from time to time. But it's really just kind of this tilt, like what you're kind of talking about, from point A to point B. This little bit of a kind of like a soft 5-degree tilt, like what you're kind of talking about. And honestly, I would imagine a tilted card wouldn't get a gem mint 10. You know what I mean? But because it's not really centering, it's more of like a it's more like a miscut. But I don't think you'd get the miscut OC or the grading qualifier. But that one's really tough, to be honest. It is shifted a little bit, but I don't know how that would impact the grade. I would imagine that, because the argument that I always go with when someone asks me, so this is a good kind of observation. So normally when I see something slightly off on a card that's not common, like whitening or corner creases or bends or stuff like that, in this example, it's an actual kind of tilt shift in the actual card itself on the edge from the top left to the top right. The question I always like to ask myself is, first, is it common for this specific card, this Charizard and Braixen, is it common for this card specifically to have this shift? So for example, the Mewtwo, it's common for it to have speckling of white in the back. So if that's true, if it's standardized across the board, then PSA will ignore it because it's common for that printing. There's not a copy that exists that does not have that issue. The second is, if it's not a common issue, are there other 10 copies that do not have that tilt shift? Because the argument there would be, or should be, if the same card has a 10 that does not have that tilt shift, why should a card that does have the tilt shift get the same grade as the ones that do not. So if we're speaking purely from a like logical perspective, the answer to that should be no, technically, because it's not within the standard kind of centering, corners, edges, and surface, specifically the centering, right? Because centering implies that the borders are horizontal or vertical, like perfectly, right? Not, it doesn't account for a degree of centering, if that makes sense. So those are the two things that I would check. If it's common for that card to have it, if it is, they'll overlook it. And if there are other 10s that exist that have the same exact tilt shift, if either of those are kind of like the exceptions to the rule, in this case, you would probably get the 10. If those are not exceptions to the rule, like if it is not common for this card to have this tilt shift, and if there are cards like if there are Charizard and Breaksins that are 10s that do not have the tilt shift, then my guess would be that it would count against you, which would most likely result in getting a 9. It's still a mint card, don't get me wrong, but it's not a gem mint card because there are other gem mint cards that do not have that issue. Is my educated guess, because I've never graded a card with a tilt shift. So to answer like what I think the card would get as a grade, 10 if it's common, if it's meant to be there on these cards or these printings similar to the Mewtwo. 9 if it's not. It's kind of my loose grade for that one. All right, so next up is Loxy with the Gold Mega Lucario. And then after we're talking about the Mega Lucario, we're going to talk about the Power Packs. And we're going to be talking about the PSA offers. So very popular subject as of late in the Pokemon sphere. So we're going to be giving my opinions on that. So let us look at this bad boy right here. And I can tell you right now, with all the pictures that you sent me, the make or break is going to be the centering on that right side compared to the left. Because from my eyeballs, where I sit, I don't know if you guys can kind of see it, that right side looks a little bit thicker than the left, in my opinion. But we'll let the almighty ruler kind of softly dictate if that is true or not. So from here to there, so roughly, yeah, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, like 5.5 on that right side. And then on the left, and again, you're going to have to kind of take this with a grain of salt if you have it. Is this your card, Bree? Or is this, I don't know whose card this is. Or that gold, probably. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the left. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so again, it's a little bit out of an angle. So you're going to have to kind of take this very loosely, and I'm measuring it with a snipping tool ruler. But the right side is at 5.5 tick marks, where the left is at a 4. So I can tell you right off the bat that's going to be over that 55-45 threshold. So definitely measure it in person. How I do it, me personally, I use like a transparent ruler with millimeter markers, have this card in a sleeve, and then just kind of overlay it and see like what the measurements would be. So hopefully in person you're still within that 55-45 range. I'm sure there's other things online that you can probably look up too with like centering apps, but I personally don't use centering apps, so I can't recommend one that I like over the other, but I'm sure there's a million of them out there by now. But I kind of stick with a tried and true of just using a millimeter ruler that's transparent and just kind of overlaying it over the card. But that's the first thing. And really the other thing that kind of helps me is I'm just going to kind of look at your pictures here with the corners. So first off, this corner looks good. So we're going to kind of paint the corner picture here. So your top right corner, I'm assuming that that hopefully is on your background and not on the card. If it's on the card, that might be even more against you from getting a 10. And this, I don't know what that is. That might be like a little bit of a scuff on the top there. Now for the other corner, so it'd be this one. So that top left corner looks fine. I'm not really worried about that. Again, it's kind of the same thing for this one as that top right. I don't know if some of this whitening is on your background or not, but like that, or I think that was really it. But this can probably be wiped off on that left edge as well as this towards the bottom middle. And then this bottom right maybe have some whitening issues here as well. Let me see, make sure I'm taking adequate photos here. So like this, and this. So with your Mega Lucario, here's my kind of like quick speech. At first glance, if we're looking at a 10, I feel based off of the corners and the front centering, it's going to be a pretty long shot to get a 10, in my opinion. The centering specifically might prevent you, but you might have to do that measurement in person, like I was kind of talking about. The other things that I saw, the top left corner looked great. In terms of what I'm seeing on the corners on the back, what I have circled on the top right, which is what appears to be whitening in this top right corner, and what appears to be mild kind of scuff or removal of some ink during the process, is kind of giving some red flags. If I can find the other one. So the top, no, that's right, because the top left was good. It was the bottom left, and I had it too zoomed in. There we go. So on the bottom left, we have a little bit of something there on that left edge, a little bit what appears to be whitening on that bottom corner, and some more fuzzies kind of stuck on that bottom middle. And then on the bottom right, we have what appears to be 3 points of mild whitening on those corners. Now again, is that on the background? I don't know. Just double check. So I would say if all of what I said is not there, meaning that the centering is within 55-45, so again, how you do that is you add both the measurements on both sides, so like the left plus the right, whatever, however you measure it, and you divide one of the sides by the total. So if the left side equaled 5 tick marks in this example, the right side equaled 5 tick marks, it would, you add those together, it'd be a 10. And then if you divided the left side by the sum, which is 5 divided by 10, you'd have 0.5 or 50-50 ratio. That's how you do that. So if everything that I talked about, with those little bits of whitening, the centering is good, all that stuff, you have a pretty good shot at getting a 10. However, if the centering is correct, what I'm talking about, where it's not 55-45, the centering is huge on modern cards, especially one at this caliber, and you probably wouldn't get the 10 because of it. In addition, if all those bits of whitening are true, or at least half of them are true on the back, that also would probably prevent you from getting the 10. So in today's current market, a card that is graded as a 9 or even an 8 equals the value of a raw copy. It's current, like, however you want to phrase it, whether you like that, whether you hate it, the truth lies in the consumer, and the consumer says that it is worth the same. A 9 or an 8 is worth the same as a near mint copy because the printing standards are good across the board, so it's basically a 10 or bust. And that's kind of my loose reasoning behind that. So I think that is it for that. Yes, I appreciate you hanging in there. Yes, so that was the last one for tonight. because I really want to talk about, um, not in crazy detail, because I'm hoping to have some time to make a more, because I think it's really important to talk about. Um, yes, anytime, Clinton. I appreciate you hanging out, because now we're going to be talking about these GameStop Power Packs and the whole PSA offering a payout for your cards. So to kind of catch everyone up to speed, a lot of social media content as of late when it comes to PSA is I missed my review on the Mewtwo. I think the Mewtwo, that one I had a lot of discussions about. I don't know if it's just from a camera, but one of the things that we saw on your Mewtwo V-Star was that it almost looked like there was some recoloring up here. I don't know if that's true or not, but you might want to look at the VOD once this is done, because I did a really big breakdown on why I think it looked like a recolor. But just kind of, I would recommend going back in the VOD and watching it, because I can't really do it justice. Kind of doing an overview. But, so, PSA has been doing a program for a while where you submit your cards to get graded. You receive an offer from third-party companies through PSA. It's not PSA directly buying these cards, by the way. And you get paid. And so recently, people have been taking advantage of this more and more, so much that there are instances where people are getting offers at like 85, 90, even from what people are saying, 95% of market, which as a vendor, to be truthfully honest with you, as a vendor who has to pay taxes and does it the right way, I cannot compete with offering 95% market on every card. People will say, good, like death to vendors, whatever. You just simply can't do it. It's just, the financially just doesn't make sense. So it got me thinking, how are these companies able to offer 95% of comps on these cards when they're buying them back? And so it got me thinking, and I actually watched a video. For those of you who don't know who CoffeeZilla is, CoffeeZilla is a person who does a lot of investigations and kind of like very boots on the ground journalism when it comes to like crypto, NFT, like online finance, stuff like that. And one of the things that he made a really good video on was online gambling. And it really got me thinking. I think online gambling and just gambling in general has become so mainstream, even much more so than before, to where it's now being introduced to Pokemon as like a cheeky way of kind of skirting certain rules and regulations that are put in place in traditional gambling. And my big aha moment was that actually makes sense, because you have sites like Box.gg and GameStop Power Packs. These are the companies that are offering up to 95% market on these cards, because they are using gambling ratios and gambling percentages to their advantage to offset the cost. So that's how these offers are actually supported, because these companies are hedging the bet that they say, if I pay more to get these cards, I'm going to put the cost back onto the buyer for gambling. The house always wins, high risk, high reward type stuff, because they've done the math to where they know that they're going to make that money back, because that person pulling 10 times, those 9 times that they didn't win just made them money back and then some from the initial investment of the chase, right? So like this whole like Box.gg thing, the big chase for, I don't know, this spooky slab hunt as an example, right? So they bought this Gengar Mimikyu for 95 or even 100% comps, right? This is the main chase of this little like weird wheel thing. So if I did like a demo open, right, like, oh, I'm opening up whatever, this case I got a Chandelure, right? It was like I pulled the lever, I pulled the slot, and I didn't get what I wanted, right? So them paying a higher percentage on that Gengar Mimikyu, the more times I pull, the more that premium is being paid by me, which is offsetting their initial purchase cost. And it's the same thing for the power pack. So if we look at, like, for example, the diamond level, right? So the diamond level, we have chase cards like the Umbreon Gold Star. We have First Ed Shadowless Charizard. We have a Gold Star Torchic here, right? We have all these crazy 5-digit values, and you see some of the percentages broken down on the right side. So no different than just like a loot box or like percentages. So this is like the diamond tier, right? So for what it costs to get into the diamond to pull that lever, right? If they paid, you know, this advertised price, right, which is this number right here, and I can't say it because TikTok gets mad at me now. The odds of you getting that are 0.1% to put the initial 1,000 in, pull the lever, you have a chance at getting something, 8 or more. And so it's literally just a slot machine at the end of the day. And again, I'm going to keep talking about it in circles over and over and over again. The reason why PSA is able to offer these buyback prices is because gambling will always offset that initial cost because they're advertising that as the premium to offset their cost, and they're passing it on to you. Now, I'm not condoning, at the end of the day, adults can do whatever they want with their money. I genuinely don't care. You can do whatever you want. But that is where it's kind of going, is because they're able to offer so much more than me. Like I don't have a thing like this. I don't have a site like this. So how vendors are doing it, which is really annoying, is why you see social media popping off with coin flip content where you see games of chance, double or nothings, people that say, hey, I'm not grading this card, but I'm going to put the raw version in my case and say that it's a good card to grade and maybe make it 5-10% more than the market price because it's a gradable card. Sequential certs, like, oh, I got the Entei, Suicune, Raikou graded back to back to back, so they're like a sequential, like, cert number 1, 2, and 3, right? They're in order, so it warrants a premium. So all these people that are justifying themselves going into possible debt to pick up some of these cards and then trying to artificially create a demand, almost like a snake oil type salesman, are going to tell you as the buyer, hey, sequential sets are really, really popular and really in demand. Therefore, that's why I priced it 20% above market. It's a really good investment, bro. You got to trust me. The sequential set will go to the moon. It will hold its value. That's what they're trying to put that premium onto you to offset their attempt at trying to compete with GameStop and Boxed, because I don't have a gambling site. But how do I add that premium if I don't have that? That's why like people do a lot of like the mystery boxes, the mystery slabs. And to be honest, like I've had those on my site for a while because I genuinely thought 2-3 years ago that maybe there's like a formula, maybe there's got to be something where you can kind of get a return on your investment to make it enjoyable for both myself and for the buyer. And you really can't unless you make that floor really, really low to make it worth your while. I tried it. I tried coming up with a solution, and it just doesn't exist. But people, especially in today's state where things are so expensive, it's just kind of that thrill to chase, man. The high risk, high reward, that dopamine hit is like no other. That's why gambling is such a popular industry. It will always be a popular industry. There is nothing like it at the end of the day. And so vendors are trying to introduce elements of that excitement then they have to come up with creative ways to sell that excitement. And that way is being a salesman, trying to convince you that a sequential set is expensive, trying to convince you that an ungraded card has the potential to get a 10, so you should take the chance, pay 10% more to get it graded. Um, Maybe do like a coin flip to basically put the premium on me as the seller or you as the buyer. So we're kind of, I guess, evenly kind of seeing who gets kind of cooked, one or the other who gets cooked, because you both kind of acknowledge that it is kind of a silly thing. Um, Another thing that I was thinking of is like I've talked about it a few weeks ago, but the Pikachu with gray felt hat, that will to this day never make sense to me why that card is so expensive as a 10 when it has like 40,000 copies graded as a 10 or 20,000, something like that. So there is definitely a supply, but you have to pause and think, where is that demand coming from, right? Who is generating that demand? And it's social media generating that demand because people love talking about how they bought it, or they got it for free at the event or paid 40. It's really good clickbait. It's really easy engagement to say, hey, I bought this card at 40, I graded it, now it's like worth 2K as an example. Because that's what social media loves, right? They love pumping out that content that gives that virality of showcasing the high risk, high reward, or get rich quick, right? That's why crypto is so popular. That's why NFTs were, but they didn't really hold too much water. So all these games of chance and putting these premiums on a pedestal so that us as the buyer buy them. So it really just kind of boils down to, from a vendor's perspective, and from a vendor and a buyer perspective. So from a vendor perspective, it boils down to how ethical do I want to be, right? At the end of the day, am I in it for the long haul or am I in it for the short term and get my money and leave? And the answer is that I'm in it for the long haul. I genuinely want this to be my like retirement old man in the card shop at like pushing 70, hopefully if my health is good, pushing 80s, just being a cool dude, chilling, serving the community, just talking about cards and stuff. I'm not in it to, for example, I know a lot of people, like I don't like there's no like names that pop up in my head or anything. But, as a business that has like an official tax ID and everything like that, I have to pay sales tax on my stuff. Like it's just there's no way around it. If I sell a card, I have to legally be able to charge sales tax. Now I don't charge that to the buyer. I take that out almost like a fee. So I have basically like an 7 or 8% fee on everything that I sell, and I claim that on my taxes. Now some people might say, "Oh, that's foolish" or whatever, but at the end of the day, if I get audited because I have like other like lines of credit that I have at my disposal if I ever need it. Like I want to be able to maintain things like that. I want to be able to maintain getting a loan in the future if I need to like buy a store or be more like open up other business opportunities. I want to be able to show my paper trail. And if I succumb to those urges of passing the premium onto the customer and leaving those bad tastes in their mouth and kind of sacrificing my credibility for the sake of the dollar, I'm not going to make it. And I think a lot of people are not going to make it either, from a vendor perspective. That's why people that either like will not take trades and only offer cash all the time means that they're in a cards too much, or they have completely alienated the collector base and are only catering to investor bros. When they have slabs that like the cheapest slab in their case is like 1,000 or more, right? They're totally alienating the collector. So by the time it comes down to those investors needing to sell off their stuff, like when they're in their 70s and they're looking to cash out and they're looking, hey, who's going to buy my stuff? The collectors are all going to be holding the bag the investors are going to be holding the bag, and the collectors are like, I'm not paying. Like whatever you guys think that card's worth, like the Pikachu with Greyfell hat, if you guys all think that's $5,000, that's great. Me as a collector, I can see the population. The demand ain't there. So I'm not going to pay that price. You can bring it down and maybe I'll consider it, but I'm not paying what you're asking. And so that's what's ultimately ended up going to happening, in my opinion. It just doesn't. It's logically the demand doesn't make sense for stuff like that. And then as a buyer, you have the option, right? You have the option to either sell this stuff yourself, which now PSA does offer sometimes higher than market, or higher percentage than market. But you kind of have to ask yourself in certain, granted, you can sell a card however you want to sell a card if you wish to do so. But just know that the more PSA gets fueled with kind of the full loop of the collection from a card that's ungraded, they grade it, they kind of control who the third party people, because like I can't tell PSA, hey, I'm going to buy that from them for 95% or whatever. Like I have no ability, so it's all those big name stores that I just talked about, Boxed and GameStop to name a few. Um, Eventually it's going to become a closed loop. And so when collectors are looking to go to trade shows and trade shows are starting to disappear again, because it really hasn't been that long since it was like super hard to find trade shows, and now they're starting to be like literally everywhere. The more people kind of talk badly about vendors and shows and quote unquote people ripping people off, and I know people do, but not all of us do. Ultimately, there's not going to be shows left. There's not going to be collectors left. And the only way that you're going to be able to buy cool cards like this, like you won't even be able to trade anymore. Like I can't, like if you see this, this Rayquaza Gold Star PSA 7, you might have good stuff to trade towards it. At a show, you'd be able to do that. You can't trade, like in this power pack, you can't say, GameStop, hey, I see you have a PSA 7 Rayquaza Gold Star. Can I trade my stuff for it? They're going to laugh at your face. They're like, oh, look, we're not going to offer that. You know what I mean? Like you can pull the slot if you want to try to get for it, but we're not trading your stuff. That's kind of the trade-off that you're going to be getting. Like you're going to get that quick cash, yes, but you're kind of feeding this cycle of, everything's going to be digital and you're never going to have stuff in person again. If that trend continues. So at the end of the day, really what I'm trying to get at is just be mindful when you're kind of going into this space from a buyer and as a vendor or a buyer. Ask yourself, like when you're seeing a card and before anything starts happening, whether someone's trying to convince you to buy it, whether someone's trying to convince you to sell it, whatever, ask yourself what kind of that supply and demand looks like. And is there a heightened sense of fear of missing out because of social media, or that sense of like high risk, high reward, or get rich quick, whatever? Just pause and just do your own research, do your due diligence to really figure out if what you're about to do is something you're okay with doing. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about maybe a few months ago about when people tell me, should I sell, should I buy, whatever. If you need the money, sell it. If you don't need the money but want to shop around offers, have a too good to pass up offer. If you don't need the money and you're still enjoying it, keep it. And if you don't need the money but you want something else, like you want to start another collection or whatever, trade it. Those are like my big four that I personally always follow. It's helped me numerous times with controlling FOMO, with kind of controlling like this premium crap that goes around. Like I just want a card, right? I want a Pokemon. Probably the only thing premium that I'd ever consider, because I just like how they look, are cards with swirls on them. That's probably the one that resonates with me the most, and I can kind of fall victim to that, and I'm okay with doing that. But aside from that, I just pause. I'm not buying Felt Hat Pikachu PSA 10 for anything above 2K. I think it's ridiculous, and the fact that it sits there still is ridiculous. Especially with all the other cards that have a crazy population, but the demand is quote unquote keeping up. It's artificial demand. I could argue that for hours. It's artificial demand. And people saying that it's not are people that have 10, 20, 30 copies of that same card are just trying to pump it too. Just is what it is. Doesn't make sense otherwise. So yeah, that's my maybe I was just like my whole video right there. I feel like I kind of talked about all the main points. But it just is what it is. Like it's just kind of people trying to find ways to skirt around the laws, and offering really good prices, but they have to, like, it's not a magic pill. They have to offset those, yes, these companies are offering really good percentages that me as a vendor could never compete with, but they are offsetting their cost by putting it behind a mystery product or some form of gambling, which that's why, like, if you guys know of Kick as an example, the streaming platform, like Twitch really has a bad issue right now with ads, right? That's how they pay for their site to be active. Whereas with Kick, they don't have ads. So the question is, well, how can they support that? And the answer is that they're supported through their gambling revenue. So gambling, that's been my biggest epiphany, is people buying into premiums, so basically eating the cost from the vendor and making that high risk, high reward gamble worth it, or offering some gambling service like a mystery box or a loot box or whatever, like what you're seeing on screen with the power pack from GameStop. That's how they're offsetting their cost, is through gambling, and it makes sense because it's gambling is super addictive. It's super fun. You know, high risk, high reward, huge dopamine hits. Like it's just, you know what I mean. The city of sin, Vegas, right? One of the big things is gambling, and that's it rings true in Pokemon now. Whether you like it or not, it's here. People have got to accept it. It is what it is. But all right, guys. Well, that's my certified yap session. Hopefully, I didn't put anyone to sleep with that. So, what do you guys think? Am I too off target? Am I kind of too old man curmudgeon? Too kind of conservative? Because I'm not belittling or denouncing gambling, but I am saying that gambling has had a huge influence in the current state of Pokemon in very crafty and creative ways, both from a buyer's perspective and a seller's perspective. And I'm just trying to do my best to stay true with my ethics, my beliefs. Certified lover boy, certified yapper. I am Yapia Gaming, TCG, LLC, ABC 123. I love yapping, man. I can talk about this stuff like all the time, genuinely, because I think it's just tough, man. It's tough for people to navigate this stuff because it's all over the place. It's all day, all night, 24/7. The stuff that gets the clicks. It's just exhausting. It's exhausting. And you're starting to see that divide happen sooner than later, meaning that investors and collectors are distancing themselves, and more collectors are getting out of the hobby because it's just too expensive. Dude, it's crazy. I'm telling you, definitely, if you haven't already, I highly recommend the newest video that CoffeeZilla released about gambling, because I didn't even know that there are now certain banks that offer spins of wheels, and you literally just from your straight bank account now. Yeah, dude, you can bet on literally anything, like all the big like sports books, and there is a thing that he talked about where like Roblox is now starting to introduce some mild degree of gambling. So kids are being introduced to the concept much earlier. And the argument that people will probably make for like Pokemon packs or any like trading card pack is, yes, there is still an element of chance, but it's not Pokemon, like in this example, it's not Pokemon that sets the price of the products inside. They just set the ratios, right? For like, so they have commons, uncommons, rares, like illustration rares, special illustration rares, hyper rares. Like those are the ratios that they have set. But it's the secondary market that decides within those subsets what cards are worth more than others. And when the secondary market gets involved, that's where that gambling kind of attaches itself. So inherently, it's more of the ratios from opening up a pack and less of a gambling, because the moment Pokemon seals that up, they're not influenced by the secondary market. They're just influenced by the ratios they have elected to put in there. It's just a secondary market that decides what card has more value than others, and that's where it starts to look more like gambling, but in reality it's not. Yeah, dude. The Roblox gambling is real. Because I was trying to look back, like just reflecting on my own childhood, right? Like really the only thing that we had of chance was, because like the games that I grew up with, really the only game of chance is like World of Warcraft for like loot drops and stuff. But you weren't like, I mean, granted, you can kind of like make the argument with like gold and whatever, right? Like buying gold to buy like certain items in games. Like I never really played World of Warcraft, so or like you can even think, Luke, I know you're like huge into RuneScape. Like that might be something that may have been around, like auction houses or gambling houses, whether in game or out of game, where you could like gamble or pay for like RuneScape gold or Warcraft gold to like pick up certain weapons. So there's kind of like that weird gambling aspect that way. But aside from that, I really don't think it existed up until kind of recently when loot boxes were really kind of introduced into gaming. When was the first loot box? Probably CS:GO, right? Or no, it'd probably be TF2. I can't remember. I'd have to look at what the first introduction of a loot box was in gaming. I don't know if it was TF2 or probably something sooner or whatever, but um, every game now has ways just to buy. Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of the thing, right? People in RuneScape gamble on what type of flower will come out of a seed. That's crazy. But I mean, it makes sense, right? Like it's just like no different than pick a color, right? Like people bet on everything. There is I forgot what the thing was called, but the one time I went to Alaska, it was during like a state fair, and they had like a big spinning, or it was like a big spinning wheel with like holes in the outer side of the wheel with like different numbers, and they had a mouse like in the center, kind of like hidden with a bucket, and then they pull the bucket off the rat or the mouse or whatever, and then whatever number it kind of went into to like get the cheese underneath the board is what won. We're just inherent gamblers, man. We're inherent game of chance. You know what I mean? We're very uh it's like the opposite of one in the hand is worth two in the bush. It's like the two in the bush, you could have two in the bush versus just the one in the hand, or there might be none in the bush. But I'd rather take the shot at the two than the one. I don't know. What the hell do I know? I'm just a dude on the internet that collects shiny cardboard and does whatever. But alright guys, I have to edit some videos. I am going to be posting hopefully this week the full vendor POV from Syracuse, which will be cool, and I also got to make some clips from that. And then soon after is going to be the Plattsburgh show, which was probably my most fun that I've had so far. And then the other thing that I'm going to be recording this Saturday is I'm going to a show where I'm going to be a buyer. So I'm going to be recording my experience from a buyer's perspective and showing you guys exactly how I wish people would prepare going into shows. That I think would be really interesting for me to try to show off. Because my intention for that Saturday show is to get rid of, or not really get rid of, but trade to consolidate a lot of my slabs within the like 100 to 250 range. Because I'm trying to shrink down physically how much space I use, because table fees are getting a little high, and I only use 2 cases. I don't want to get a third case for stuff like that. So, Betty with the cool shades. Glad that you woke up from your nap. You probably went for a nap when I was yapping. I heard someone at the Plattsburgh show. They said when they watch my stream, they go right to sleep. I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, as always, guys, Pokemon is crazy. But I think if we kind of like hold the line and just kind of give yourself some space to really kind of say, supply and demand is the juice worth the squeeze, and if it's actually warrants what they're talking about, then that's how we should be basing our decision. Don't be basing it off of a Logan Paul or Jar Chomp, or I'm not saying that they're bad people at all, but I'm just saying, if they're talking about stuff, like, use your own judgment as well. Don't use them as like the mouthpiece of the entire collectible hobby, and don't think that they're preaching for, oh wow, like anything that they say for me to buy, I'm gonna get rich. Like, it doesn't work like that. At the end of the day, it may look like it. People make it appear as though it's like that, but trust me, it is not. It is not like that. People are getting money like this somehow, especially like the big YouTubers. Like, they get ad revenue, and that's how they're offsetting some of that cost too, is ad revenue. And people tend to forget that too. Like some of the bigger ones. That's why they can offer like, 80, 85, 90% sometimes, because their ad revenue is offsetting that cost. Unless they're full time, then whatever. But the point is, use your brain, chat. You guys are the best. Love y'all. Appreciate it. Join the Discord if you haven't. I have some really cool stuff in my bio. TikTok is really weird, and I got to say stuff like that now. And apparently I can't even talk about costs. I already got flagged for selling stuff on another platform. It's so stupid. It's stupid that I can't talk about costs of things and where people should go for links. It's stupid. But apparently we're not old enough. We're old enough to gamble, but we're not old enough to talk about prices of things. Like, a gallon of milk is $5. Apparently I can't talk about that. Nor can I tell you where to buy milk, which is at a grocery store, because I'm selling milk off TikTok platform. It's all stupid. But at the end of the day, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me as always. There's a giveaway now. The monthly giveaway has started. Check out my TikTok bio for more information. Click that link. You'll know what to do from there. Make sure to put yourself in for some free packs. And I'm done yapping. Before I pass out. Later, brothers, sisters, homies, homettes. I appreciate you guys as always.